Fourth place Jordan Wright running out the top 5, which he needed a good finish after last week, was the 17 of Vaughn Stone.
Right.
Vaughn Stone 2 weeks ago had probably the roughest week of racing that I've seen anybody have all year.
That car couldn't go on the track. It didn't want to be on the track.
It was the strangest thing. In qualifying, into turn 3, slides the car up, slams it into the turn 4 wall, destroys all the right front suspension, put it on the hook, tow it off, spend a couple hours getting the car ready for the feature, send him out on the track for a couple of safety laps, out of turn 4, gets the green, goes around into turn 3, throttle sticks, bam, hits the wall in the exact same spot and destroys the exact same corner. It was like watching the same lap twice. Strangest thing. Needed a top 5, needed a good run, got it, finished 5th, just ahead of Dave Miller. Vaughn Stone is starting to come around now this season. We're starting to see that 17 car. He's been fast qualifier. We've seen him win a heat race a couple of weeks ago. They're starting to put all that stuff together. You know, it's the first year in that car. It's Swartz, Cody Sell's old car. Working on stuff that you don't. I don't say they don't know race cars, but when it's new to you and you're trying to figure out the setup for your driving style, I think they're at that point now.
They're starting to make it click.
Yeah, Vaughn Stone's starting to make it click, and I think from here on out, another guy that's going to be fast in this division. I think one of the guys that has really, really impressed me in this division the last couple of weeks, and I talked about it last week on the show after they made the changes to the car, was the 55 of Dave Miller. This car, the physical change, watching it on the racetrack, has been night and day the last 2 weeks as opposed to the entire what we've seen coming into the midseason championship. Had some issues. He started talking to a particular driver after getting into an incident with him. And he said, "What was that all about?" He's like, "Man," he goes, I did not do that on purpose. I apologize. I am struggling with the setup of that race car. There's something wrong with that car. Bring it over to the shop. You know, here's a guy that he just got in a wreck with, you know, and tore some cars up. Nobody's fault, just an ill-handling race car. And he says, bring it to the shop. We'll get it right. And sure enough, when they got under there and found some stuff that was bent they didn't know was bent,
right,
really, really important stuff, you understand why he was struggling with that car. It wasn't the driver. It wasn't the setup. It was all set up and bent parts, dramatically bent parts. Okay. So like I said, the last couple of weeks versus, you know, the rest of the season, again, kind of a Vaughn Stone type deal. That 55 car and a 17 they're going to be threats from here on out.
Well, they're both looking more relaxed in the car. You can actually watch them when they're going around, especially with the no tops.
And that's being comfortable in your ride and understanding it. And yeah, you're right.
You got a lot of guys you can watch them just sawing that steering wheel back and forth, going down the straights.
On the straightaways, yeah.
And then there's other guys that look like they're out there drinking a beer and just having
cruising.
time one-handed.
Just cruising.
Sunday drive.
Yeah.
And then there's some guys that look like they've had several beers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And then there's guys that literally reach in and they'll grab the deck
to
set themselves for the corner.
We've got a couple of guys, yes, that do that.
I did not see that before until the in-car cameras, and then I was like, why are they doing that?
Oh, the stuff you learn with in-car cameras. And it's not just us that learns that stuff. Trying to get this thing working here. I'm going to send a message out. Boy, we've got some weird stuff happening on the track this year. Just stuff that it just makes your head spin. You know, one of the divisions is the modifieds.
Oh. I love them but hate them all at once.
As a race fan, I don't know if you can ask, you know, again, with the street stocks, I don't know if you can ask for anything better than what the shows you're getting from the IMCA modifieds, the IMCA sport mods, and then, again, the street stocks. 13 modifieds showed up. Fast qualifier did it on the last lap of qualifying. His last lap of qualifying, he put down the fast time. No, I'm sorry. He did it on his first lap in the last session. Okay, he was in the last group to go out. Did it on the first lap. 17.532. Colin Weinberger. Second fast, listen to this. Second fast was Bryson James. Weinbarger's time, 17.532. Bryson James' time, 17.580. That's close. That's edging somebody out by, half a width of a tube on the front bumper.
Right.
I mean, that's how competitive this field is. 13, again, qualified. Fast qualifier, Weinbarger, Bryson James second, Gray Ferrando third, Dustin Cady, Rod McCombs were your top 5. Then it went Sam Potter, Craig Castle, C.J. Putnam in the 83R. It's a fast car. Good driver. Kenny Miller in the 57 made his second appearance. Glad to see him. He actually ran pretty well. Lauren Cruzy, Ryan Baker, A.J. Davis, Rob Jeffers. Going into the feature. We're going to talk about it. IMCA Modifieds. Did you watch that V13 of Gray Ferrando?
No, I didn't. I wish I could have.
He was working on that car all day. He found something. I'm going to tell you that right now.
He's been finding something a lot.
That car is fast. And he showed everybody that Saturday night. He showed everybody that. I mean, Colin Weinbarger finished second. But I correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. I believe that was a flag-to-flag victory for Ferrando.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Pretty sure.
Started off.
I may be wrong. I don't think I am.
He might. I don't remember. I don't think he was on the front row for the start. He might have been in the second row. I don't remember.
But regardless,
he checked out.
He did. Then there was a caution and tightened things up. And Ferrando had the line everybody wanted. You had to be down low. Right down on that one line on the bottom was where the rubber was, whereas they started second row. Led 99.9% of that race. It didn't help the rest of the field that when he got to the front, the track was about a lane and a half high and wide.
Right.
Weinbarger, to his credit, Colin Weinbarger tested the waters everywhere. He tried it as low as you can get. He tried the middle. He tried the top. There just wasn't anything out there to get a hold of.
Right.
And as fast as Gray was, I don't think it would have mattered if there was. I don't. And that's saying something against this field. Listen to the top 5 that finished this field. Okay, 14 started the feature. The top 5 were Gray Ferrando, Colin Weinbarger, Bryson James.
Who's 13th in national points right
13th in national points, Bryson James.
Really?
Yes, 13th in IMCA national points.
Wow.
4th was John Campos, and 5th was Dustin Cady.
Yeah.
Those are your top 5. Okay? Every single one of those drivers have wins this year.
Yeah.
And any given night they go on the track could win.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to do it. That's how tight this field is. Buzz, you know, you're there Saturday night. You watch these guys.
Yeah. Gray, he's once he's got in the feel for the car, he's always been aggressive.
Yep.
But he's smooth aggressive now.
Right.
And
it took him a little bit to develop that, but man, I don't know. I mean, there are a few drivers that I would say, man, he is exciting to watch.
Right.
I mean, really, truly exciting because they're on the edge. And I've said this, I made this comparison before. Gray Ferrando reminds me a lot of a young Rob Maya.
Yeah.
Think back 15 years ago, 20 years ago when Rob was really starting to get going. You hone that aggressiveness and the smoothness, and you start putting it all together. I think, honestly, Ferrando's probably ahead of the curve compared to where Maya was back then.
But he's got a lot of good guys helping him, too.
Yeah,
well, and that's part of it.
That whole corner in the pit.
Those guys, they all help each other.
They're just one big family back there.
They'll fight each other. They'll get frustrated and say stuff, but that's the heat of the moment.
After the races together.
Absolutely.
So.
Before the races. Before the races, huh, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how those guys, they're buddies.
Yeah.
They get frustrated and they'll say something to each other, and it's the heat of the moment. It's like boxers at a pre in the weigh-in. There's going to be some words, absolutely. but those guys will hug each other after they beat the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are no different, this group of guys, these modified drivers. You know, I mean, prime example, something Sam saw Saturday. You know, and we if you've been listening to the show the last couple of weeks, you know what this refers back to, but he's sitting back in the pits. He looks over in a trailer. He looks over. Go ahead, Sam. Tell him what you saw.
No, you
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's your story.
My son's leaving. I got to give him a hug. Love you, champ. Okay, so he's in the back in the pit area, and he's like, you're not going to believe what I saw. I was like, okay, what now? Because, you know, we've talked about, you know, Speed Week is Speed Week. It's serious business. These guys are there to race. They're there to win. And that's when we see the aggressiveness. That's when we see the words and the tempers. And it's understandable. It's racing, you know. We've talked about it. He said after all that, in the pit, or in we won't say whose trailer. It was a trailer. I don't remember exactly.
It was Gray's.
Gray's trailer. You got Ferrando. You got Weinbarger. You got Campos. Had
Katie.
Dustin Katie.
They were all sitting there in the shade, just
chilling, hanging out.
Right.
And that's what it's all about right there. I mean, you know, again, you're gonna give everything you can on the racetrack. There's an old saying, we've all heard it, at 200 miles an hour, you have no friends. When you're dirt track racing and you're in the car, you're just another number.
Yeah.
That friendship goes out the window in a sense. You're not trying to hurt somebody, but you're there to race.
Right.
You know, and that's what these guys do, and they are very, very good at it. These guys here are phenomenal. We love watching these guys because they're so good. But,
well,
you know,
like I said on last week's show, you had Superman kind of dominating at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Then Katie kind of came in when they did their thing.
Right.
And
now Ferrando's coming on, and Bryson James is coming on, and, you know, I mean, there's no like back in the day. It used to be Tom Wagner every night. Tom Wagner, you went there to watch Russell, Bob Jeffrey here.
You went there to watch them win, and that's just how it was.
Yeah.
That's not like this in this.
Not in this division. Not in this division.
You're gonna see a race.
Well, we've got two guys that have 4 wins each.
Yeah.
But everybody else also has wins too. So
Right.
I mean, it's the most, I think, truly probably the most competitive field out there, and these guys are just incredible. Outside the top 5 in the 6th spot, an impressive run to 83R of C.J. Putnam. We don't see him very often at Willamette. Okay.
We almost had a medical emergency.
Sorry.
Man down.
Excuse me. You guys are all looking at me like, what's wrong? I'm like trying to fight off a sneeze. Putnam was 6. This impressed me. The 57 of Kenny Miller had a really, really good run. He finished 7th. Here's a guy that I think he's made 2 appearances at Willamette this year. He's out of Sunset. He's got the TRE chassis, and I wish we did see him more because he's actually a really fun driver to watch. He was consistent lap after lap, and he got in a couple of situations where it looked like, whoa, wait a second here. These guys, you didn't know if they were going to make it out or 4 cars were going to go. And they were racing so hard in the pack that he was in. He got out of it and ended up finishing 7th. But, man, it was the pack of cars he was in. You know, Kenny Miller, Ryan Baker, Hot Rod McComb, Sam Potter, Cruzy Jeffers, A.J. Davis, Craig Castle was a finishing order of the mods.
And Hot Rod looked good, so that car was hooking.
Yes, it was. Probably the best I think we've seen that car look at least all season.
Really?
That 04 car was, yes. McCombs had that thing dialed, had some forward bite. Good run.
Mm-hmm.
Very good run. You like to see that. You want to get into the big class, you want to get into the news, and the whole talk of all last week. We're going to talk late models. A lot happened with this division last week. With the breaking news coming out of Willamette Speedway, they're going back to the old format. I'm going to tell you right now, that is the best decision management has made at that track, is full invert, putting your fast guys in the back.
Especially for the fans, because nobody wants to see everybody wants to see their guy win, but to just start at the front and
right,
it's like watching the toilet bowl go around.
You know, and here's the thing: not everybody was for this, but most of them were. Yeah. Most of the guys we talked to before the racing started, before we did our pit crews, they were for it. Why? Because of the show it creates, the fans.
Right.
These guys aren't worried. You know, they're worried about the fans.